brutal.
I think that was your idea to do that.
Oh. That's a lot. Total time, 2:34.
That did indeed suck.
And this is still there, although hanging on by a thread.
Yeah, it's pretty brutal.
I couldn't see your hold from where I was standing with the magnifier, but I think you were slow the whole time.
Or I was aiming pretty high back there.
You were?
Yeah.
So what you just witnessed, what you just watched, just dumping straight into this video, is what is considered what some call a scrambler drill, not to be confused with the scrambler drill on our website, or a stress shoot. It is more or less a course of fire that is shot over a longer period of time than, say, just a small little drill that is meant to get the heart rate up, test some physical ability, and also test the soldier, operator, shooter, civilian, whoever it is shooting it, on their ability to maintain a high level of shooting performance while getting a little bit of exertion. I will say that doing these super often is not that helpful. This is more of an assessment than anything. Brandon, you were in the Marine Corps and you did all sorts of training. How often did you guys shoot stuff like this?
Well, we did it too much, to be honest. Like Lucas said, this is an assessment. This is not a training tool. This is not something you should focus on. If you want to focus on getting improvement on your physical ability, you should go to the gym or do something like that. If you want to get better at shooting, you go shoot. But this is time just to assess. So once in a while, maybe once a month, this is
Yeah.
good to do just to see how fatigue affects your shooting ability.
Yep. My goal with doing this today is I'm messing with the Trijicon VCOG. So I wanted to shoot a course of fire that kind of puts a little bit more, oomph into how I'm shooting the optic. And sure enough, later on, there was some stuff about the optic I noticed I did not like. And then some of the long range, that was more my fault than actually running the optic. But we will talk about that here in a little bit. So let's go ahead and start here and just talk through what went wrong. Because again, this is sort of a demonstration for you guys, but Brandon and I want to get better at shooting. We're not content with where we're at, even though technically we could stop training and we're at a level that allows us to produce content that is still, you know, high quality, but we want to get better. So what you do after you shoot a course of fire like this, or any course of fire, is self-assess what actually happened. So from here, the only thing happening is mounting the gun and getting on the target, which
Yeah.
I think we both did fine on.
Yeah, I just held a little high, that's all. So my dot came down a little higher than I wanted to and broke the shot.
Yep. Pretty simple, just straight up marksmanship with no fatigue yet. Running up to the barrels, 5 pistol. I had one shot, delta side, high right, just completely basically off the paper. How was your pistol? I didn't actually see your hits.
So my pistol here was actually very good. I had all alphas and 3 rounds were in the same hole. So, but I did shoot very slow. So if anything, I should have sped up, but this is like 20 meters or so.
Yeah,
5
25.
alphas, definitely could have shot
5
faster.
alphas? Dang. I will say we had this sort of piece of cover and we both we got behind it to shoot around it, but like it wasn't really the point of the drill. I mean, like my leg was probably obviously still sticking out and I don't really care, but the goal here was just to get on handgun and shoot. I will say, if I don't generally do this with students, run drills where they are transitioning to a handgun with a hot rifle, because especially on something like this where you might forget to safe the weapon, I usually try not to get people transitioning unless they're at bolt lock. But we've trained a lot. I know I hit safety every time I transition to a handgun, which is 3 different times without being at bolt lock, but that is something to think about. If you are forcing a drill like this where you have to dump the rifle while it is still hot, just take a little extra time, make sure you actually hit that safety, because you don't want that trigger, you don't want like a magazine or a carabiner or something on your kit hitting the trigger, and which has happened and will happen again. So I don't know if you have anything to say about that.
You nailed it.
For this drill, I only did one walkthrough briefly at the beginning. We went to kit up and we didn't do another one. So I tried to take note of what's in here, but I didn't really know. So I shot this 80%. I shot this about the speed. If I were to shoot this without knowing where the targets are set up, which you guys love to point out, which by the way doesn't really train shooting like at all, I took this like 80% speed. I went a little bit slower. I knew there were targets tucked around in here, but I didn't know if they were set up shallow where I can walk past them, or if they were set on this side where I'd have to turn violently. So I just took it a little bit slower. I had good hits, I was fine. How'd it go on your end?
So I actually kind of gamed this and I planned on going this way, but then I watched Lucas go this way and it went very fast, so I went this way. But my plan was to shoot that target first. So I came in here, ran past that guy, shot that guy, had to stop and shoot again. So very inefficient on my manner.
This guy got a no-shoot set up on one side, so we really have to make sure the movement is controlled, the side picture is controlled. I still got a side picture on this guy running the VCOG on 1X, 3 alphas. You got 3 alphas, good to go. Still 80% speed. Then arriving in this box, I braced. I was able to shoot a little. I don't think it helped me shoot faster. I just shot a little more accurate and controlled.
Yeah,
but at
definitely.
this distance, I would have actually shot faster offhand probably.
Yeah, if
A
anything,
little bit easier to transition.
the bracing made it harder here because this is very, very close. This
Like
is like
20.
maybe 25 if that.
Yeah. So what do you have? I had, I think, 1 Charlie. I think.
I think I had a Charlie there and then 3 Charlies on the guy through the window. Just hand.
Yeah. Oh, going
aim,
high.
Yeah. Just aim. Actually, I got enough of it. So.
Yeah, you got 2. Yeah, I can't remember what I had on him. The other 2 were alpha. I think the other 2 were all alphas. He might have been a little higher. Plate rack was fun. Plate racks, I love setting up plate racks at the end of a course of fire like this because this will destroy people's bodes. But we kind of shot it halfway through. We still had some good exertion here. I had some makeups before I got like dialed in, and then it was just.
I got too confident with it. I had first 5 hits, and then I think I missed 1 in there in the first 5, and then the last one I almost used the whole mag. It seemed like.
I was waiting. I was like, ah. But I think you hit slide lock exiting.
I did.
Bleeding, yeah.
Yeah, I did. So
Very
last
convenient.
round reloaded and ran off.
Whee!
I think it was last round.
So we've got this long range barricade set up for when I'm doing, well, anyone here, but I'm doing a lot of long range shooting. So we have this set up here just to get a little bit more distance. I got 600 all the way to the end, or it's like 590. Again, climbing up to here is a little more, I guess, unconventional from a lot of shooting courses of fire that I've seen. Some folks will use like ladders, but here we're actually like clambering up around a vehicle. For me, I dialed my scope too much. I think I went to like 6x to dial in on it, and I would have actually done a little better. It's only like 265 meters if I had been like more at like 4x, and then I wouldn't have been chasing the shake as much, and I could have shot more off of like a visual stimulus and not off of a timing stimulus. So I had a lot of makeups with the VCOG, and I shouldn't have. It's a 1-8 at 260, like, and we didn't really have wind, and I'm shooting a 62 grain bullet, like, and that's a good gun. So it was all me.
Yeah, obviously I didn't finish it. It took me quite a few rounds to hit. Not to make excuses here. I have a 2.5 MOA dot shooting at 250 meters, so the dot is the size of the target. Yep. But also I'm not using
zone too.
Yeah. So I'm also not using a free float rail. So me inputting into the gun in the barricade is actually flexing the barrel, and I was probably leaning into the gun too much because I was holding pretty high. I was actually holding in a different spot every time I got a hit. So probably just too much input in the barricade.
That rifle. And that is something to think about, like shooting like an M4A1, which is what you had, is that rail. I had a Geissele, I mean, it's a URGI gun, and it didn't have a problem. I think it was probably the input.
Yeah, that's definitely the downside to non-free float rails. You cannot really lean into them on a barricade because it will move your barrel.
For sure. Well, let's talk about our kit over here. So the kit we had, we've got these new M81 AC1 plate carriers. It's a slick rig that you can build out a little bit. I've actually built them out fairly large, and in this case I've got a Mayflower placard that gives me 4 mags, which I like, you know, based, very cool. And then speed belts with just magazines primarily. I mean, it's a pretty slick loadout. It's not, you know, an AVS covered in explosives and 2 radios and a massive radio thing, and it works. Yeah. What do you have? What's yours?
So I have a lot of time in the Crye MBAV. What I really liked about slick carriers, and especially this carrier, is you can scale it up quite a bit.
Yeah.
With this, it is very slick. Just have magazines on the front, using the supplied pockets from the cummerbund to do as much as I can. So I got medical on one side. I do have a smoke grenade and a pistol, and then this is a radio pouch that we have for small radios. So yeah, that's essentially the kit. It does have a lot of capability for very little stuff going on.
Yep. And then for rifles, like I mentioned before, I'm testing out this Trijicon VCOG. The one thing, the biggest downside of this optic that I ran into, again, the reason I'm I was going to shoot my Knight's Armament with an EOTech to be competitive, although, I mean, I wouldn't have the rail flex issue. But I decided, you know what, no, I'm going to shoot the VCOG because that's what I want to do. The unfortunate thing with this optic is the eye relief is not super forgiving. I think it's still like 4 inches, but the downside is the mounting interface for it, which is the ACOG mount, which is actually cool because then the optic's always leveled. You don't have to like level it in rings. Doesn't allow you to position the optic very far forward. So I actually, right before I came out here, I had a B5 stock on here. I was still getting a lot of black eye box because I wasn't far enough out. This Voltor rifle stock was able to give me like an extra 1/2 inch. That works pretty well, but when I entered the second to last shooting position before going into the long range, every shot on the move on the 4 targets, I was seeing, like, I was hitting black from the eye box. My stock placement was still good. It didn't feel off, but I was literally like, fire a shot, don't see sight picture. Oh, there it is on the target. Oh, fire a shot quickly. I was losing my sight picture just due to the finicky eye box and not getting this position properly. So that kind of sucks as far as that goes. But the optic, outside of that, the optic didn't limit me on my marksmanship overall, and I was still able to get hits at distance, although obviously with makeups, and I don't like that. But it is what it is. So that's what I've got right here.
And something else to consider with eye relief and length of pull and stuff is when you do have an eye relief that is very long like that and you have to have a long stock, you also want to think about the angle of your grip. So obviously people are wanting to run more vertical grips. The problem with that is designed for smaller eye reliefs and shorter stocks, or shorter length of pull. So with how Lucas' gun set up, a VCM grip is good. It's a kind of a hybrid in between like a Magpul K2 or a P5, but even an A2 grip would work very well on that setup.
So one of the 2 most requested things from you guys over the last, well, some of you guys over the last like 9 years is showing blind courses of fire and showing stress shoots. And then there's of course the whole conversation about train like you fight, always train in kit. I will say that regardless of how how you are going to train, whether it's in kit or not, if you don't lack the ability to shoot well, slick, Throwing on all this kit and running a course of fire like this is not going to do you any good. The only reason Brandon and I are able to run in here, shoot this course of fire with like 95% alphas, the long range we need work on. We haven't done a whole lot of that, and that's just something we need to do more of. But the reason we're able to run into these, different shooting areas, get 95% alphas, is we are training a lot slick. We're not letting the kit distract us from what's going on. And then when you throw it on there, the only thing that's really changing is just fatigue. It's not changing our ability to shoot. So that's why we're not doing a ton of videos or training doing this sort of thing, because, it is going to reduce my shooting ability. On the last portion, I definitely felt it getting in there with the handgun. I was tired. My shooting ability dropped. It will drop, but because I have a high level of shooting to begin with, it didn't drop all the way to here. I was still able to be up here and still get my hits and shoot moderately fast. So we don't necessarily train in kit all the time. I don't think it's productive or a good use of time. If you are testing kit out or you have a new setup, definitely go shake it out, is what a lot of people call it, to find out what's going on. But the biggest thing for me to improve from shooting a drill like this is more fitness. Because if I was more fit, I would shoot this faster. I would not be as fatigued. I would be able to engage at distance in the last position a little bit easier. And that's why for the last 8 months I've been in the gym. I have a coach, my own garage, full gym, and I'm doing that 3 days a week. So, which thinking back, if I did this 8 months ago, I would have shot this quite a bit worse than now, just from the fatigue aspect. So I don't know, you're working out all the time.
I have been, obviously, in the military and the special operations realm. You're kind of expected to have a high level of physical fitness. But even this, how quick this was, Lucas went a lot faster than I did. It was only 2 minutes. How fast you can get fatigued. So there really is no cap on how good a shape you should be in. Just keep that in mind. With shooting, there's always that next step up. You should always achieve the next step. Physical fitness needs to be the same thing, because none of your shooting ability is really going to matter if you just can't even get to the objective.
Or you ECAS.
Or you ECAS, yeah.
It happens. So, you guys found this interesting, go ahead and let us know. And or if there's anything else in particular you'd like to see from Brandon or myself, or comparisons, or different things like that, because we are reading the comments. We're not just giving audiences what they want, but we are trying to give you guys what you need. So we will continue to do that. So until next time, Lucas and Brandon.